Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus. Other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Chicago Bears decided to make it a football game last night. A little late, but in time to tie it, take it to overtime, and win it with an absolute legendary throw, 22-16 over the rival Green Bay Packers. How'd you take this one?
Legendary throw, legendary comeback. I mean, this is one of the top 5 regular season games and probably in franchise history. I mean, look, I tried to think back. I'm old. I'm older than you. I'm older than a lot of our listeners. I'm trying to think back, what other regular season games had this much gravity behind it? How much meant so much? The division on the line, playoff ramifications, Caleb in year 2, Ben in year 1. How much stuff surrounding this made this, such a big game, and this has got to be top 5. I couldn't think of any. I mean, there was some cool games in my lifetime, but this has to be top 5 all time regular season football games for the Bears.
I don't remember the exact stat, but they dropped it a little bit at some point in the game. They said these two teams playing this late in the year with a winning percentage over 650 or whatever it was. It was like 1930 something or something like that. I mean,
makes sense. Yeah.
It's been a minute. Like it's been a minute since both teams have been good, competitive, and geared up for something hopefully bigger. I mean, it's a thing, man. It's crazy. I just thought let's not beat around too much here. Let's talk about this end of the game sequence and talk about just the things that happen to kind of kick us off. So, Bears are driving late. They're down 10 and they get stopped. They run the field goal unit out and they take their time. And that needed to be a little bit more of a fire drill. They sort of took their time, snapped it, right before the 2-minute warning. Cairo Santos, we'll get into him, makes the kick, but it's at like 158. So they've basically lost the 2-minute warning. Now, if you make that kick in a fire drill situation and it's, there's 2:20 left or 2:15 left, the Bears are kicking deep. They're going to kick deep and hope to get a 3 and out, burn their timeouts. But because they didn't, they would have gotten the ball back with like 30 seconds or something like that. Like it's not enough time. So they were forced to do the onside kick. What was your thought at that point? Let me stop there before I go.
Yeah. So I'm watching the game, right? Watching live, you're thinking, like everyone else, hurry up, right? Then I watch the rewatch and I'm trying to watch it. And yeah, the sense of urgency probably wasn't as extreme as we hoped it was. But look, you got to make sure everything's lined up correctly. That's a pretty big kick, for the Bears at that point. You don't want them to take a chance to take in a penalty. You got to make sure everything's lined up correctly. So yeah, I mean, should they have rushed it up? Obviously, but then yeah, I mean, like you said, if it happens before the 2-minute warning, they're kicking deep. There's so many things at the end of this game that happened.
That's why I thought we'd go over them
in past Bears teams. They can't overcome this or overcome that or overcome this. This Bears team overcame it all. They said, look, I don't care. We're going to come back and win. We're down 10. It's the most improbable win in forever. So they did it. I mean, this team is built differently.
Yeah, a lot of people are comparing this game to the Mike Brown back-to-back walk-off, stretch from the 0-1 team, which I think is a fair comparison for those of you that are old enough to be around during that. So let's go to the onside. So the onside kick, Santos has a nice slow dribbler, and I felt like it's one of those times where like a ball gets tipped up in the air and it feels like it's up. That ball is up there for 38 seconds. Your time stops. And it was such an interesting kick because I thought that thing's just out there. Like, I think there's a Bears player is going to flash in front of Dobbs and just take it from him because it's just slowly rolling. And then I've watched the replay like 7 times. Dobbs he kind of backs up. Like he's letting the ball come to him, but then he kind of is backing up into catching the ball. I thought it was a super soft approach from Dobbs there. And then he makes contact and then looks up waiting for the hit. Now, we just talked about the two of us have both had an onside kick recovery in our playing careers many, many years ago with the stakes a little less than what this was last night. But you focus on catching the ball and go down. You don't care about the hit. You don't care about anything that's coming. You just have to just job number one is to secure that football. He did not. He took his eye off. The Bears came in, delivered a hit. He rolled over on it. Josh Blackwell came in with the recovery. It's like an 8% success rate at this point with onside kicks in the NFL. But the Bears did it, man. They had it happen to them before in the Cincinnati game. And here they're able to return the favor and get one in an absolute must-have tight spot.
It's almost like Dobbs was thinking a lot about. He was waiting for a hop that maybe didn't come the way he expected. He was looking for the hit to come that he knew was coming, and it's almost like he got in his head and he just, look, these things happen. I'm glad it happened to the Packers this time because, how often throughout the years has there been oh my God, I cannot believe the Bears this happened to the Bears against the Packers. It's good that it's on the other side for a change. These guys, they deserve some of this after all the years that Bears fans have went through. This is a good one for Bears fans. And look, Packer fans are already chirping. Like they started chirping the moment the game ended, right? It's like, who cares? I don't care who was on the field for your team. I don't care what circumstances revolved around the game. At the end of the day, scoreboard, jackass. Take a look. What happened right there? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, game and a half up. Look, there's still 2 more games left. Something can happen. But for now, I like the Bears' chances of winning this division and making a playoff run.
Absolutely. We'll get into that a little bit too. Again, I want to just complete this sequence. So the Bears have the ball, a little less than 2 minutes left. Now they've got the time's not an issue. Like time a little bit, but like time's not really an issue here. You've got, a couple timeouts in the bag. You have an opportunity here to go down and score. They drive the field, they get close, and then it's 4th down before you know it. All of a sudden it's a 4th down play. The Packers come with a 0 blitz. It pressures in Caleb's face, and he hits what Tom Brady called a fadeaway jumper, like a Steph Curry fadeaway, I believe is how he put it, to Ja'Day Walker for a touchdown. Ja'Day Walker's second catch, I think. Obviously his first touchdown in the back of the end zone. Great play. They talked about it after, but both Ben Johnson and Caleb were asked about that in their pressers afterwards. Basically said, well, that's the read on the 0 blitz. We had answers depending on what the Packers did, and that's the place to go. And so, well, you're putting all this pressure on an undrafted free agent rookie, and it's like, that's my guy. Like whatever. Like he stayed at my house. I've been repping with him all year. We've talked about this moment. Like I trust him as much as I trust anybody else. And I thought that was really cool moment for them, and to have that moment there. But yeah, of course, this is what we've been talking about all year. Like guys keep stepping up because they're involved throughout. These guys are getting coached throughout the year too. They're not just cooling on the practice squad, not being involved in the game plan. These coaches are coaching these guys up, so when they have that opportunity, they're able to deliver.
Did you catch the last Bears 1920 football drive? They shared a clip in there of Ben Johnson. I'm not sure when he said it at his presser. I'm sure I watch all the pressers. They all just bleed into each other, but they shared a clip of his presser in that show, and he's talking about what you just said. Our guys who are special teamers and backups, they know they're being coached up because they know at some point they're going to be asked to step up and play. He was kind of referencing the Amin Agbangbigha big game he had, and the
Agbangbigha, yep,
damn it, and the big game from D-Jack. When they had that big game when he had to step in when the Bears were down to linebacker 4 or 5, right, 5-6. He said the practice squad guys are being coached up because they know at some point they're going to be called up to the active roster. So yeah, this team is constantly coaching. They're constantly teaching. They're getting these guys ready. And look, I love that in Ben Johnson's presser that he did mention that all the trust they have in Ja'Day Walker, right? He said that's why we kept him on the active roster, because we know what this kid's capable of. We didn't want to expose him to waivers, which is what Bears fans have been saying for years about the practice squad. So we finally got one, right?
Finally got one.
This is finally the guy that they admitted they could not lose to waivers because they saw his talent in the preseason. They saw his talent during camp, and they wanted him around. They wanted to develop him. And that's what you need. You draft, you sign undrafted free agents, you get these young players in your room, you find some gems, you develop them. And before you know it, they're contributors on this team. And you're like, man, the depth of this team is pretty good. And the Bears are still working their way there, but again, compared to where this team was in the past, this depth of this team right now is really damn good.
So the announcing crew talked about how, as they were going down there, hey, Ben Johnson said last time if the Bears would have hit that touchdown against Green Bay, they absolutely were going to go for two. I would
Yeah.
imagine that that's absolutely going to happen here. And when he said that, my thought was, I disagree. I think you
Home
actually
game.
want to go
Yeah.
to overtime
Yeah.
here. I think you want you have all of this momentum. You're at home. This is an opportunity where the book actually tells you like tie it up, take it to
Yeah.
overtime, win it in overtime. So that's what happened. So I wasn't surprised about that, and you're agreeing with me. I wanted to mention the Montez Sweat sack that kind of ended any chance there that they would try to go down and kick a field goal there at the end. That was a big play. They take it to overtime. Packers are driving the ball pretty well. Bears make a stop on 3rd and 1 with the little Malik Willis keeper, which they were not prepared for earlier in the game. That forces the 4th down. They had the missed snap, really heads up play by the running back to grab it on the run and try to pick up that yard. That would have been an all-timer play, but the Bears were able to make that stop. That was a really nice sequence. I saw some people say it was a lucky thing. I mean, I don't know what to tell
I
you.
don't care. Yeah.
Like what? Sure. Like I don't know, man. Like that's just a good big play, and then of course you're having myopic event there and forgetting the trick play, which we'll get to at some point that the Bears had on the goal line, and then I know we'll get into it, but the touchdown pass to DJ Moore to walk it off. What were your thoughts on that moment?
Like I like DJ Moore a lot, right? He gets a lot of criticism. I was on a show yesterday talking with DJ Moore with one of my other guys, and I just like DJ Moore. I know his personality rubs some the wrong way. Some think, oh, he's a me first guy. Well, that's how a lot of receivers are wired. That's just kind of how it is. But he's bought in right this year. The no block, no rock. He's there doing what he has to do, and I just like DJ Moore. I just think he's a good football player. This year hasn't gone the best for him, but he's there and he's still there and he's still fighting. He's still working his way through it. And first off, he was interfered with clearly on that play. I mean, that guy was draped all over him. And that was the same Packer that gave him a cheap shot early in the game. Perfect poetic justice there for him to get that on him. But man, DJ Moore was spent after that game. He was spent during that last drive. He was spent in that game because I think he played 96% of the snaps. Because he's wide receiver 1. They're missing Rome, they're missing Luther, so he's out there. And then those end of game sequences, I think it was Tom Brady mentioned in the broadcast, how tired those receivers get because they're basically running wind sprints for the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, getting back to the huddle to having to do it all again. So he was exhausted. You could see it in his body language after the game. And then look, come on, the cheese grater on the head afterwards.
Yeah, in the post-game interview where he said, F the pack, right? I mean, it's always F the Packers. I mean, that's just fantastic.
He's dropped that line several times. He understands this rivalry. He's a Bear for life, man. I love it.
A couple things about DJ. I thought that first of all, legacy game for him.
Uh-huh.
Let's just put that out there. When the cheese grater flashed on my phone at 12 o'clock at night or whatever it was when they finally dropped it. The first thing I thought, I saw it from a different side, not the obvious, like it's a cheese grater side. And I was like, what the heck is that? And then he kind of turned around to the front and there was like the handle. And I was like, is that a whistle? Like, what is this? Like, there was just this, like all this stuff that was popping through my mind. I didn't understand what was happening. And then like you see it, it's a cheese grater. Oh, that is, it is so funny. But absolutely, it's a legacy game for him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is something that we're going to be talking about for a really long period of time. But that Keyshawn Nixon cheap shot, I mean, that's a sucker punch.
Yeah.
Like it is something that just, that's it's not quite Charles Martin body slamming Jim McMahon, but it goes on the list as an absolute cheat. That's outside of the confines of the game. You want to talk about Austin Booker and the helmet to helmet hit on Jordan Love and Packers fans. Like Jordan Love's like lowering his helmet and head into the contact. That's an unfortunate play. He honestly probably needs to take a page from Favre and Rodgers when they, particularly late Favre, when they saw that the play was over, they gave themselves up. Yeah. Manning would do that. Like they would just they'd crumple and they just take the sack. That he was bracing for contact. And really he should just go down. Like he just, oh, I'm stuck. I'm going to take this sack. I'm going to go down. But he braced for contact and lowered his head. But that's within the play of football. Like that's an unfortunate thing. You never like to see a guy get injured, but it's in the course of action of a football play. This Keyshawn Nixon thing, that was a hit. Like that was
had nothing to do with the play.
Yeah, had nothing to do with the play. He's running across the field to make a play. Yeah, he's 40 yards away from the run. He's not going to make that play, but yeah, he's going to do a wind sprint and then just has to run through the back of DJ Moore. If DJ Moore's facing him and trying to put a block on him, run through his face. Absolutely, I have no problem with that. Yeah. But you don't run through a guy's back and knock your forearm into his back and try to knock him out of the game. That's Bush League stuff.
Bogus.
Absolutely terrible stuff. I hope he gets fined for it. We'll see if something like that happens. But okay, 15 minutes into the show, and we're going to get into our first category. I just thought, what an epic series of events. Let's not dance around it, and let's talk about it. We are doing this on Sunday brunch here. This is a very unique setup, so I figured let's throw the normal course of events off a little bit here. So let's do our first category, Trench Tribute. We love to start with the big guys up front. Where do you want to go?
Look, I know overall the run defense wasn't the best, but I am going to go defensive line because watching the game, I thought Grady Jarrett was pretty active, right? The whole game I saw him, he was popping on film. 7 tackles, a quarterback hit. He had a pass deflected. Then I rewatched it again. Same thing. He's very active. Some of these big gains the Packers had, they either came when he was on the sideline or they came away from him. So I thought he was pretty sound in his assignment. He didn't get pushed off his gap very often. He was, moving the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's what you want to see a guy do at the defensive line spot sometimes. But I thought Grady Jarrett, and look, it's not just this game. He's been having a pretty good stretch here these last few weeks. He's playing pretty good football. He's looking healthy. He's moving around really, really good here. And again, early on, we're like, oh my God, this guy might be a bad pickup. But I think he's giving the Bears what they need now. He's a presence inside. And the other stuff the intangibles that we'll never know for sure, but the coaches, the players, they all seem to really think Grady Jarrett's a big boost to that locker room.
Yeah, first name I wrote down, 7 tackles, 1 pass defense. He, got hurt, serious injury 2 years ago. Last year was maybe a little down, which happens particularly big guys when they're coming back from major injuries. And then he was a little banged up early in the year. So he didn't look that great. Well, that's football. That happens. It's good to see that he's recapturing some of that former ability and form that he has here. Again, playing your best football in December is not a bad thing. That goes in line with what Ben Johnson was talking about early in the year. That clip got shared around quite a bit this last week from his September presser after the Bears dropped to 0-2. That got brought up quite a bit here this last week. So that goes in with that, right? You start to get these guys back. You start to get more healthy. He's certainly a part of that. I already mentioned the Montez Sweat sack. I know that he, didn't necessarily flash the whole game, but that was a really big play there. I actually just wanted to kind of give it to the offensive line in general, which I think is a big piece of this, because the offensive line overall had no sacks allowed, which obviously that's part Caleb, and then also had an average of 5.8 yards per carry. So when you're talking about like the offensive line overall, not a specific guy, but the offensive line overall, those are pretty good numbers, right? Yeah. If you can keep your quarterback upright and you have 5.8 yards per carry, I know that the sequencing of the game doesn't necessarily reflect this dominant effort or anything like that. There's a lot going on there. The Bears only had 3 possessions, really only 2 until the last piece of the first half there. So in the first half. So a lot of things were just kind of weird in this game, but overall, I thought the offensive line came to play.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. I want to, again, I rewatched the game late last night. I was up like 4 a.m. So we talked in the pre-show. I was up late. A lot of stuff had going on after the game. A lot of stuff I had to do. So my rewatch wasn't as normally as laser focused as always. I really just kind of wanted to, hey, let me make sure Grady Jarrett was the guy here. But on my next rewatch, I want to watch Ozzie Trapillo specifically. I want to kind of see how he did in this game. Another guy that's kind of been coming along these last few weeks, playing better football. So I want to see how he plays. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I thought the O-line was pretty good. Again, no sacks. The running game was solid. Caleb, of course, is a big part of the no sacks thing because he's just doing his Houdini thing again. But yeah, it was a overall for the trenches, pretty good week this week. The run D needs some tightening up there, but again, the Packers are a pretty good football team. They have a pretty good offensive run scheme there. And of course, when they got Malik Willis thrown in the mix, that gives them something else they have to think about there as far as defending the run. But overall, I got no complaints on the trenches this week.
Yeah, and when Willis came in the game, they were not ready for quarterback runs, and he made them look silly a couple times. Yeah. And I think that is one of those things about a backup quarter. People were, our backup quarter. Packers fans last night on the timeline. Our backup quarterback, and it's like, sometimes that happens. And Malik Willis is a good football player, and I know he's not a starter in the league right now, but would not surprise me if somebody gives him some bridge starter money to see if he's a guy that maybe can get you through.
Love and Willis, they actually had they played similar amount of time, and I think I saw Willis had a better EPA, which is a huge in the stat community, the nerd community, they love that EPA. Packer fans love the EPA, talking about Jordan Love. So Willis had a better EPA in this game. So what's the problem? Stop complaining.
Well, Bears fans game plan for Jordan Love. Right.
Yes.
And then you get a different guy in there. It's a little different. I'm not a scout. I did go to the Senior Bowl the year that Willis came out, and with our friend Robert Schmitz and some others. And I remember talking like, these quarterbacks are really unimpressive, but if I was going to take one guy, it would be Willis and no one else. And Pickett was the guy that got taken in the first round that year. So at least my quarterback evaluation, even though I'm not a quarterback evaluator, was dead on in that draft as well. So real quick, I want to talk about playoff scenarios before we go any further, because this was huge for the Chicago Bears playoff chances. So I ran through the simulator on The Athletic once again. I put that out last week. We talked about it a little bit. The Bears have a 97% chance to make the playoffs at this point. And I know it's crazy that it's not 100. And maybe by the time you listen to it, it would be, because maybe you listen to this after the Lions play, and if the Lions lose, it's 100%.
Or tie. Yeah.
Or tie. Yeah. I mean, ties happen so often. We should mention ties all the time. So here's what it takes just to get into the playoffs. Bears win one of their last two games, they're in the playoffs. If they get a loss from Detroit or Green Bay, either one, they're in the playoffs. That makes it 100%. To win the division, they either need to win one of their last two games. That will get them the division win, or they need a loss from both Detroit and Green Bay. If those things happen, they win the division. The number one seed, which
still in play,
it's still in play. So let's talk about it. They need to win both, at San Francisco and against Detroit at the end of the year, and then they need Seattle to lose either at Carolina or at San Francisco. Those are the games. Yeah. Like that's we're getting so down to the end. Yes. 97% means that 3% out there means that the Bears don't make the playoffs, which would be crazy with 11 wins. But yes, it is a scenario that's out there. However, these are the games that matter.
This is what matters.
Pretty crazy. Anyway, all right.
Meaningful football in December is what we always want.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. But yeah, we're getting to the point where let's just hope that Detroit loses today. Yeah. And we can just, okay, the Bears are in the playoffs. Let's breathe a sigh of relief here, and then let's focus on the division. So, all right. So let's hit the social media portion. Sweet tweets. What do you got?
So we already kind of talked a little bit at the top. I wanted to make sure I squeeze this in somewhere. I wasn't sure how much time we spend on it, but Next Gen Stats that had the Chicago Bears win probability as low as 5.5% before recovering the onside kick coming out of 2-minute warning. Of course, they were down 16-9, 2 timeouts. This is the 5th most improbable win in the Next Gen Stats era, which goes back to 2016. We talked about improbable wins in Bears history. This is pretty improbable as far as NFL history too. So we talk about legacy for DJ. This is legacy for Caleb, legacy for the Bears, legacy for Ben Johnson. This is a game that's going to be talked about in Chicago Bears history for a long, long time.
Yeah. Some people were saying, well, that win probability stat is stupid.
I don't understand it. I'll be honest with you, I don't get it. I think it's neat, but I don't understand the whole. I
mean, I think it's one of those where they take the entire history of the game And they run these numbers and say, okay, at this point with this lead, with how much time's remaining, if you simulated this game, 10,000 times or how many times they
Yeah.
run it, here's what how many times this team would end up winning that game percentage wise. So is it 100%? No, it's not. That it was not 100. It's 99.5. Well, that's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
that was where the Bears were at in this one. They really did box themselves into a corner. But once they got that onside kick, I felt pretty good. Like I'm not saying I felt like, oh, they're going to win it for sure, but I felt pretty good once they got possession. I was like, okay, they're moving the ball. They haven't scored a touchdown yet. I think they'll absolutely have a chance here. And I mean, I gotten a number of texts, and I saw enough on the timeline that I'm just curious. I'll put it out here. How many dogs in the Chicago area lost their minds because their owners lost their minds and started yelling at the TV? Because I got a bunch of stuff like, oh, my dog, I freaked my dog out. My dog kept barking for 20 minutes because I lost my mind here. Like it, I think a lot of dogs had a good night too.
I had one outburst at one point, and look, it was late. My wife was already in bed. She had to get up early in the morning. I woke her up. She said, "Did you get a pass for that one?" She yells down to me. So the rest of the game, I was trying to maintain myself. It was hard, man. I mean, that was exciting game, exciting comeback. And look, you mentioned how after the onside kick, you felt pretty good. That's because the Bears have the Iceman.
I got the Iceman.
I got the Iceman.
Let's go into mine.
Boom! Look at that transition.
NFL on CBS, at NFL on CBS. This is from Matt Ryan, and he said, "This is what Caleb Williams has been all year: clutch in the biggest moments of the game." And honestly, it goes right into my stat of the week, so I'm just going to like roll it in to
Okay.
one.
Nice.
And my stat of the week is 6, which is the number of fourth quarter comebacks that Caleb Williams has orchestrated this year. That ties Peyton Manning's 1999 for the most for a quarterback under the age of 25. So, yeah, some of these guys, as they get more comfortable in their career, they orchestrate these. They might, stack a bunch up in a year. But generally, for a young guy, it doesn't maybe happen as often. Here we go, tying a record by Peyton freaking Manning. Not bad, Iceman. Not bad, Caleb Williams.
If you could get mentioned in the same breath as an all-time great, and it's a positive thing, that's always good for Caleb. And he's had a few of these, right? The interceptionless streak, the 1,000 passes with 12 picks. I mean, there's a lot of these really, really, really positive moments in Caleb's young career where it's still silly because there's still some people out there trying to poke holes. They're still trying to find reasons. That's fine. Do what you got to do. While me and JB will sit here enjoying this moment. We're going to enjoy the Caleb Williams experience. We're going to enjoy Ben Johnson. We're going to enjoy what's happening right now with our favorite football team because that's how we fan.
Yeah. Why not? Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Enjoy
Those of you that want to join us, feel free to join us. So what about you? What number do you have?
My number is 0 for 5. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the offense, obviously. And look, this is 0 for 5 is the red zone efficiency. The Packers did not score one touchdown when they got in the red zone. Okay. Bend but don't break. We've heard about this defense. And look, it's not a good defense overall. The numbers say they're pretty bad, actually. But takeaways are huge. They're opportunistic. They've been decent on third down most of the year, right? When a big play has to happen, we've seen them make a big play. They've stepped up in moments in the end of games. And here they are. Biggest game of the year, they keep the Packers out of the end zone every time they reach the red zone. It was a turnover on downs, 3 field goals, and of course that fumble. So look, Dennis Allen, it wasn't the best game overall, but his players, when the chips were down, they stepped up and made plays.
I saw people freaking out about Dennis Allen on the timeline, and I was like, I just don't think every game needs to be a referendum overall on these guys. Like I just and I saw people
worst
freaking out
coaching
about
game of his career.
Oh, they're getting out coached and all this, and I was like, yeah, they probably are. But you've got a really good team on the other sideline. Yes. They're both really good coaches. Speaking of LaFleur and Hapley, both good coaches, good coordinators. They had a really good plan. They executed it well. They absolutely dictated the terms of the fight through 3 quarters for sure. Yep. I completely agree with that. But it's hard to complain about a defense that hold, lets the other team into the red zone 5 times, but then doesn't allow a touchdown out of those 5. The other one coming, the actual touchdown coming from further out from the red zone. But you had that, they turned him away on 4th down. You had the big forced fumble.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy,
right.
He's got to be making a Pro Bowl this year. What a crazy game that he continues to put out every week for the Bears. It's unbelievable. So yeah, it's a great stat. I saw that last night. That's good stuff. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talking about stats. Let's head into Caleb's corner. Let's talk about him. 19 of 34 for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. I don't know what you're going to do with yourself this week. Probably take a nap. I don't know. Given that you were up till 4 a.m., you might want to take a nap. Added 3 carries for 30 yards. Puts him up to 3,400 yards on the year on the button. So, there's some chance here that there's, franchise mark and all that kind of stuff. That's for the taking. We talked about the Steph Curry fadeaway on the touchdown to Walker, the post to DJ. Obviously, everybody's probably watched that 100 times at this point. Just an incredible throw, perfect throw. They said they hit it in practice. He felt good about it. He rips the throw and then he puts his hands in the hand warmer and just watches it.
Yeah.
And then DJ catches it and he does the celly.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of mobs him in the center of the field. I'm like, this dude is cool as a cucumber. I also just wanted to mention there he had a couple just absolute gorgeous intermediate throws over the game. The throw to DJ on the first touchdown drive, I thought was a really, DJ goes up and gets it. That was a gorgeous throw. The throw to Zacchaeus, I know it was a drop, but that's a perfect throw right over the middle for a big play. He really had a very nice day overall. And again, I know people, 19 for 34. His passing chart, the next gen stat passing chart, said +2% on completions over expectation. Essentially means, it's about what you'd expect given the throwaways, given the difficulty of the throws, whatever. So, I mean, it might look a little low, but it's not. Like he hit some big time throws and he took care of the ball. No turnovers. Once again, no sacks. So some of those incompletions are in place of sacks, right?
Yeah.
You'd much rather have an incompletion for 0 yards than you would a sack, which is a hit on your quarterback and a loss of yards. So, and a potential to fumble, right? Like, so he's continuing to have these hidden value plays and yards that sometimes are just neutral plays. They're just incomplete passes and they show up on the stat sheet a little bit like this. Then you think, 19 and 34, is that really that good? Yeah, it was good. It was a good game.
Yeah, you look at the numbers, you're like, again, a lot of fans just look at the numbers, right? They look at that and they say, oh, that wasn't the best game. But watching the game live, I never thought that he's having a bad game, right? Like the whole time I'm watching the game, I'm thinking he's in control. He's doing what he has to do. You mentioned Zacchaeus. I thought the first play to Zacchaeus where he kind of scrambled to the left and hit him on the sideline. It was a nice big play too there. So a lot of positive moments from Caleb here. But like you said, his end game mentality, he just believes and look, this has always been in him, right? We saw him do it last year, the comeback stuff. It just didn't work out. Now he has a coaching staff. He has a team around him and they all believe, right? It's that 100% belief in something's going to get done and they're all finding a way. And it's just, the Bears got the guy, man. I mean, it's, look, a lot of fans still want to wait and like, oh, we got to wait and see if they win again. Look, they got the guy, man. They got the guy. They got the coach. This is great.
I don't want to call out anybody specific, but there's a couple posters on the website this week that the 97% confidence in the team article that you wrote.
That article? Yeah, so weird.
And confident. And I said the 3% are Packers, secret Packers fans.
Yeah.
And then, there were a couple of people that were arguing with me about like, well, I just have common sense and I have this and that. And I thought, I don't know what to tell you, man. And then they got into like, well, I'll believe it when I see it that the Bears will win a Super Bowl. And it's like, oh my, confidence in the team means that you have to see a Super Bowl win. I mean, that's such a interesting high standard that you have put out there for yourself. But that's what a bell curve is, right? And if the Bears are capturing 97%, that's vast majority of the fan base is like, yeah, man, I'm pretty happy with what this team is, whatever. There's always going to be people on the long tail that are like, I need to see it. I need to see them hoisting the Lombardi trophy before I'm going to be convinced that this is actually happening. Right. So,
yeah.
Okay, whatever. People have different standards.
Whenever I see some of these comments like that, I always think, okay, the people that are content, people that are happy, they don't normally comment. It's usually people that just want to stir things up. So it's like I commented back on that article as well. It's like, look, you fan how you want, right? If you want to wait and see it before you enjoy, like I said, we're gonna fan right now. This is how I fan. If the Bears blow it, I'll be pissed when they blow it. I'm not going to be preemptively pissed off now because I think they might blow it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy what's happening right now with this football team because it is fun to watch this team play football.
I'm having a blast.
Yes.
As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, sometimes some of you, I think, rely on us for therapy. Not a great idea. Neither Les or I are licensed mental health professionals, but Lester's got a little notice from our friends.
Yeah, look, taking care of your mental health should not be harder than taking care of your physical health. You pull a muscle, you go see a doctor. But when it comes to finding the right therapist, suddenly it's frustrating. You got long wait lists. You're staring down huge out-of-pocket costs. That's what usually stops people from getting help they need. That's where Rula comes in. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. Because, look, we can all use some help from time to time, but we often don't know where to turn or don't want to be a bother to people. So we just don't bother seeking it out at all. And look, therapy is not a weakness. It's a tool, and Rula makes it simple to use that tool. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is just $15. That's basically the cost of lunch. But instead of a sandwich, you're investing in your own headspace. And with Rula, you're not just matched and left to go figure it out. They check in, make sure you're actually making progress. Every therapist on the platform is licensed, vetted, and picked for their experience. So you're getting someone who is legit that you want to talk to. Is not just whoever's available, right? You got some real people here, real connections here. So getting started couldn't be easier. You answer a few quick questions about what matters to you. Rula connects you with an in-network provider who actually fits your exact needs. You pick the time, and you can be talking to a therapist as soon as the next day. No weeks of waiting, no endless back and forth. Bottom line, if you've been putting this off, Rula takes away the excuses. Simple, affordable, and actually built to help you get better. Here's the thing about Rula. They have top-tier providers only. Every therapist on Rula's platform is licensed, like I said, vetted, chosen for their expertise. You're not rolling the dice. You're not talking to some rando on the internet. You're talking to legit professionals who know how to get results. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to finally get the care they needed. Don't keep putting it off. Go to rula.com/gridiron and get started today. That's RULA.com/gridiron. Take that first step. Get connected and take control of your mental health.
Good stuff. After the break, 3 Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, 3 Bears. Hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Let's start with the hot. Who you got?
I mean, so many places to go here, but I just want to go back to DJ Moore. Okay. Like I said, I just think he was the last few weeks been playing phenomenal football. I think he deserves all his flowers. All the talk about, oh my God, we got to get rid of the DJ Moore. He's a cancer. That's not what's happening here. The players generally all love each other. You saw after the game, he was like tweeting out some stuff about that's my quarterback. He talked about it, in his press conferences. He talked about it in the locker room. Again, and we talked about at the top how exhausted he was. I mean, he was spent. That end of the game situation, you could see it. Phenomenal, numbers here. Some big time catches. You talk about that one in route he had where he kind of jumped up already and kind of made a huge catch, came down to kind of set them up there. Just a good football player, and look, you got a couple players out. You had to rely on him more. That's what you need to do. And I just thought he played a phenomenal game. He stepped up in the biggest moments when he had to, and he helped this team get it done.
Yeah, 5 catches, 97 yards, and obviously the big touchdown there. Also had a 12-yard run. It was like a swing pass, but it was a backward pass, so it counts as a run. So counted for over 100 yards of scrimmage yards there, and obviously the big score. And yeah, like I said at the top, I think it's a DJ Moore legacy game. I think it's everything he did there. The post-game presser, the cheese grater.
Where did the cheese grater come from? Someone has to ask this question. Did they just have it waiting there for this? Like, We're
I
gonna
well,
wait.
I would assume he packed it into his locker. Like
Yeah.
he had it ready to go and it was ready to wear it post game, obviously, if they won, right?
You can feel his disdain for the Packers whenever he talks, and that's again, that's he's one of us, man. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's legend stuff, right? And speaking of legendary games, I think it was a Cairo Santos legacy
There it
game.
is.
And 3 for 3, including a 51-yarder. He played the wind perfectly on these kicks. And McManus had a much easier task. And I know McManus made his kicks, and they all count the same when they're made. But McManus was flirting with missing kicks. Like he was very close to the post. And like there was a couple times where when they showed that camera angle, it looked like the goalpost,
They
the upright
were,
were
yeah.
moving. I was like, how crazy would that be if the goalpost like moved as the kick was coming, like one way or the other? But this with Santos, he was able to play the wind, hitting a 51-yarder in the wind, with the draw. I mean, and just hitting it dead center. Such an awesome kick. Had the onside kick that was perfection and allowed the Bears to get back and win this one. That doesn't happen if it's not for Cairo Santos, who clearly has some skill in his kickoffs. And there was a graph, a series of graphs that were tweeted out this last week, and I tweeted out, I was like, hey, this is pretty interesting. I hadn't seen anybody do this with the kickoff rule, and they were showing a heat map of where all of the kicks have landed for each team. And I think you can make a case that Cairo Santos's heat map, and I know Moody would have contributed to this a little bit, but the Bears kickoff heat map is actually one of the more compelling heat maps to say, like, these guys are doing it right. They're doing really well. There was a lot of them where you could see they had a lot of touchbacks, or they were kind of a lot of short kicks for penalties, right? And I know a lot of people, Santos makes one mistake, people freak out. Like, oh, guys, see, he's terrible. They should cut him. They should be getting Moody, whatever. Or oh, he doesn't have the leg to hit a 65-yarder. Kicking in Chicago is different, man. And he did an incredible job. That was it's a professional effort there of what he was able to put in last night. And there's a reason why he got a game ball. Like that's the game is not won if not for Cairo Santos.
Yeah, I thought Santos was awesome in the game. And look, I was trying to find the stat because I was going to talk about Cairo too here. How many game-winning kicks does he have in his career for the Bears? I mean, he's done it this year a couple times with the tying or go-ahead game-winning kicks, and a lot of fans want to move on, right? They want to get rid of Cairo Santos. They want a guy that can come in and boom 65-yard field goals. They want Brandon Aubrey on this team, and look, those guys are nice to have, but you just don't find them. I mean, Moody was supposed to be the guy coming out. He was supposed to be the guy with a huge leg that was going to be just a franchise-altering kicker, and it didn't work out in San Fran. Now he's on his third team here in his short young career. I think Santos is a good kicker. He understands the winds in Soldier Field, which is a huge thing there. You already talk about how he kind of played the wind perfectly, and of course the onside kick. I think they said in the broadcast this is his third onside kick that he's executed. And look, a lot of it's luck, but a lot of it is just practice. I mean, how often is he practicing those onside kicks? How often is he at Soldier Field working on those wins? I mean, a few years back, we remember another Bears kicker. It was a big deal that he actually went to Soldier Field to do this. Santos has done this. He goes there and kicks there. And I just think Bears fans, if they don't have a guy that they can count on in these moments, will then regret it. Same happened to Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould now, fans are like, oh my God, Robbie Gould. But when they made the move from Robbie Gould, most fans were pretty happy. Oh, good. He stinks. Get him out of there. He can't do it anymore. And of course, he goes on to have a phenomenal other, 7, 8, 9 years kicking in the NFL. He beat the Bears when he was a Niner, because of his kicking prowess. So, sometimes what you have right there is good enough, and don't be so quick to move on.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that old commercial with Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux where the chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah,
and
yes.
and they all the ladies like the guys that were hitting home runs. I feel like a little bit like seems like everybody just likes the kickers that can kick 65 yarders, and that's great. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing to have, and that'd be great a tool to have. But if you know that your kicker has a range, 55 and in, and you feel pretty confident that he's going to hit most of those, and can be so accurate that he can play the wind at Soldier Field. You're a smart football coach if you're Ben Johnson, and you say, "Oh, okay, I know how to manage this."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's all it is. Like it's nothing more than like, okay, I know where I need to go for it on fourth down, or when I can use Cairo Santos to count on him for 3 here. So
Also speaking of Ben Johnson, how often is he going to want to try that 60-yard field goal? If it's 4th and 2 from around that range, and he thinks to himself, "Okay, I'm not going to punt, 60-yard field goal, or should I go for it?" I think he's going to go for it. So I think he may have a good kicker in Cairo Santos, kind of fits his coaching's philosophy. So the longer this year plays out, the more I see how Cairo Santos is, 2 game balls now. I got a feeling that I don't think he's going to be moved on from him. I think they're going to keep Cairo Santos. They may bring a guy in like most teams do in the offseason, work it out, see what happens. Maybe they find a guy. Maybe they save, a couple $1,000,000 if they let Santos go. But I just think Santos kind of fits what Ben Johnson wants, because he's not kicking 65-yard field goals. He's going for that. He wants touchdowns, right? Yep. So let's go. Cairo Santos, Bear for life.
Love it. All right. Let's turn it around. Cold bowl porridge. What do you have?
I got to go with coaching. We talked a little bit earlier. Okay. Just like I said, most of the game they were out coached, and that happens, right? We always talk about how the other players are paid to make plays. Well, other coaches are paid to scheme things up and let their players make plays. And I thought that Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen, they'd get out coached for a lot of the game. It's funny because like I got a text from a buddy of mine. He's like, "Oh my God, the coaches are getting pantsed." And I look at the 6-0. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess there's some truth in that. Yeah, they're having they're not coaching the best game. Some of the schemes not working. That 4th down through the legs, Kyle Monangai over the head thing, probably not the best moment for that, right? So there were some moments there, and look, Ben Johnson owned it. He owned it at halftime, right? Like he didn't wait till after the game. He owned it at halftime, saying that was probably not the best time to call it. So yeah, I'm going to go there. We've praised these guys a lot throughout the season, so I think when the time comes, it's fair to call out what they did. But end of the game, they coach things pretty good.
Yeah, I think one of the things I wrote down for this, I always try to write 2 things down in case you take mine. So one of the things dovetails into what you said, and that's the trick play on 4th and 1. I think you just run a play there. I don't think you have to pull something fancy out. I think you save that. I don't know what that would have been. I tried to watch. It was that run action. Was he just going to take the direct snap and just run a middle run there? That's kind of what I thought, but like I probably need to see it a little more from the all 22. Didn't have a chance to review that yet, but it looked like run block action. So I think he was just going to take it up the middle. People are saying, "Oh, it looked like maybe he was going to pitch it to Caleb and throw." Maybe I thought I saw more run blocking action there on that one. But I think you just probably just you just line up and say, "I really like this play, and we're gonna run it." But like Ben said in his presser afterwards, well, I didn't imagine that the snap was going to go over his head.
Yeah,
like I did not picture that as a possibility. And so, yeah, I'm sure that they practice it. I'm sure the snap was good every time. They talked about it in the broadcast where it's a tougher snap for Dahlman to make. Monangai's a shorter guy, and he's back a little further, and it's a weird play, and it's a little tougher for him. But 98 times out of 100, 99 times out of 100, he's going to execute the snap. You're going to be able to see the play, and if it hits, everybody's going to be like, that was cool. I like that. I like that little wrinkle, right? And so it's always one of those results based moments. But sometimes you do need to know when to pull out the trick play and be clever. And sometimes you need to know when to just be like, we're just going to line up and run it. But again, you line up and run it and the Packers stuff you. And then people are like, can we get a little creativity here? So often it's a results based thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that Happily and LaFleur had the better of Dennis Allen and Johnson for the better part of the game, but they play 60 minutes. And they were able to even the score and then go up and win it. So you take the victory every time.
Yeah.
I it's just the Zacchaeus drop. I really like the player. There's a reason why coaches like him. He gets open, but I think he's leading the league in drops this year at this point. I mean, it's it's tough. It's tough for him because I think that he's a guy that has really contributed positively overall, but there's just so many noticeable drops that have killed drives or put the Bears in a bad position when those would have been big plays. I mean, a lot of times they're not, 8-yard, button hooks. I mean, these are generally look like they're going to be explosive plays on a lot of these drops, including the one from last night. So that's a tough one. And I wanted to make sure we at least call it out because I think if we don't, people are going to be upset because that's the one big noticeable, issue in this passing game.
Yeah, I think Zacchaeus is, I mean, he is who he is. I mean, he's a wide receiver 4, maybe 5 on a really good team. And, he's a pro's pro. I mean, like I said, the coaches love him. Players love him. He's another good locker room guy. He's a veteran. And this could be eventually where Jody Walker slips in, right? Because the Bears are developing him. At some point, he's going to take that role from Zacchaeus at wide receiver 4, eventually move up the roster, the depth chart even more. So, yeah, it's a good call out there. The Ben Johnson thing is just, this is who he is. He's going to do these things from time to time. And like I said, it's a results-based business. If the play works, awesome. If it doesn't work, that was a bad play call. I for one, always want to have the play calls my team plays called work. They all should work at every time, and then I'll be happy here. But that's just not what happens.
Yeah. It's like I would just call all the plays that work. That's what I would do. Yeah, that's great advice.
Get the call sheet that has good plays on it, and just
right.
keep calling those.
Yeah. That's the old days, like where we should just that was a Nagy play. We got to get rid of those. Right. All right, so let's go with the Just Right Bowl. I've got one name written down, so because we've already covered DJ. Okay. And so I've got one other name written down. So I'm tempted to go first, but I'm going to let you
go ahead. You go first. I do not have a name, so I'm good.
Oh, okay. So for me, it's Josh Blackwell.
Nice.
So it seems like Josh Blackwell is making a play every week, and he's a core special teamers guy, and I think he's going to make a Pro Bowl. I think, or at least he's got a chance to make a Pro Bowl because he keeps making plays every week, and no exception this week. He went down and he was able to wrestle the ball away on that onside kick. It's the biggest play of the season. I mean, we can talk about that awesome throw as the throw of the year and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff's true. But in terms of just like turning the winning percentage into a positive, that onside kick is the biggest play of the year for the Chicago Bears. And he's the guy that wrestled it away.
That's a good call, calling out Blackwell possibly making a Pro Bowl. I didn't really think about that, but they always pick one guy as a special team guy, right? They kind of pick for the Pro Bowl games, and coaches, fans don't know who the hell's doing what around the league. Players and coaches don't really know what's going on around the league. But if you make these big moments, on games, they kind of stand out. And yeah, he had the block right and against the Raiders. Now here he is having this, and then nationally, everyone saw this game, right? So that's going to be all over the place. So yeah, I mean, he's got a good chance at a Pro Bowl here, being your special teams NFC guy.
Be pretty cool. Bears are going to get a lot of Pro Bowlers, I think. And just to note, there's a lot of people that saw the fan voting, and they're like, "Look at how many Bears they're going to make the Pro Bowl." And it's like, I'm not saying those guys won't make the Pro Bowl, but just remember that fan voting only counts for a third of the overall voting. They also ask the players, they ask the coaches, and honestly, I think they put their thumb on it a little bit when they're adding them up. I think there's I don't think it's a third. I think there's a little bit of like, oh, I think it makes sense to get this guy in here. I think there's a little bit of that from the office. I don't know who's doing the vote tabulation. I have no inside information. There's time to time where I'm like, I'm very curious if those votes actually came out that way, but just, there's always rage to be had at Pro Bowl voting, and it's never correct. Like it's never right. They don't always get the right guys in, but the Bears are going to have some good representation because they won a lot of football games, and they've been able to show out on some of these big primetime games, and that's in front of mind for people when they end up filling out these ballots, because players aren't watching 16 games a week.
No.
Right. But a lot of players are watching game film. So they're getting ready for the guys. They know who they played. And they know who they're playing. But actually just kind of sit down and watch a random game. Doesn't happen that often for these players. It's only the island games when they're not playing. So we'll see if that turns out to help the Bears or not. So any other name you want to mention here before we wrap that up?
Well, for me, my Just Right, because the spirit of Just Right is a guy who performed
Yeah.
as we expect. So can I just say the Chicago Bears now with their sixth come from behind victory with another game of overcoming adversity, of getting the breaks. Look, if you work hard and you're a good coach team, you're going to get the breaks more than a bad coach team. So I think the Bears are just who they should be at this point. This is a good football team. They're capable of these kind of wins. This is not the same old Bears, right? This is a Ben Johnson coach team, different culture, different players, different mentality. So this is who we're rooting for now. We're rooting for this kind of team, accept it.
It's an 11-win football team. You don't get to
Yes.
11 wins without being a pretty good football team, right? Yeah, they've had some things go their way. That happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're some juggernaut, you have a lot of things that go right for you, and luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And so, yeah, some of these plays, some of these, oh yeah, they got lucky there. Yeah, did they? Or is it scouted out? Is it something that they saw on film and they exploited it? Right.
Yeah.
Well, is it like in my whole life, they've played 60 minutes in a football game. That's when they tally wins and losses after the clock hits zero. Or in this case, goes to overtime. And then you play the overtime rules. Bears won. Bears won. Bears won this game. Even if it was a little bit improbable at some point. Doesn't matter. They did the thing. So it's good stuff. I don't know if there's anything else. I know that you're running on fumes. I had to stay up to watch the good, better, best video. Like I was like, come on, guys, let's go. Like I started to fade a little bit. I got texts from people that were saying that they couldn't get to bed until 2 o'clock. My old boss who moved back to the Chicago area, he said he was up till 2. And then his kid actually came out and went to the game. So his kid's, it's his 20s. And then he said he was so pumped up and adrenaline, he just drove all the way back to Des Moines after.
Wow.
And I was like, well, okay, like he probably got back at like 4 or 5 in the morning, but like I get it, I get this like adrenaline rush. And there's been so many games this year where, Lester, I'm like, I gotta go to the gym, or it's like, I'm so pumped up. I'm gonna go for a run. I'm gonna get on the bike. And I'm like, I just like all of this energy is just flowing through me because this team matters. Like and I have not had that feeling for quite a while. And 2018, maybe like this feels even different than that. That there's just something special about this because it just feels like the Bears are showing you who they're going to be into the next few years. And that is really exciting. Yeah. Hey, maybe they're here a little early. Let's secure the playoffs. Let's talk about playoffs and how they match up and all that kind of stuff down the line. But like, it just feels different than anything that I have felt in a long time about this team.
Yeah, it's awesome. You talk about the good, better, best video. They actually, they redid it. I don't know if you caught that because the first video, it had the DJ Moore line about the Packers, so they redid it and they dropped off that part of the line. And they beeped it out, of course, because they're not going to let the F-bomb fly on the video. But I think at some point they're like, hey, we don't even want the beep out version. So they kind of, they pulled it off, put it back up. And because like I said, I was up all night writing and I wrote about that, I put that in one of the articles. I'm like, wait, I could have swore I heard the Moore line in here at some point. Now it's gone. So yeah, it was it was crazy night. Again, I was up late. So yeah, I need to go get some more coffee and get some breakfast, but we will stick around for the YouTube crowd a little bit here. But everyone have a happy holidays. Christmas is right around the corner here. Be safe if you're traveling, be smart if you're home, and no drinking and driving. Have a great holiday season.
Yep. Until next time, bear down. Whew.
Nice. So the mention of the 06 comeback against Cardinals. I think this game was bigger because the moment was bigger, right? That was early in the season. Obviously that was huge game, awesome game. I just think it was a little bigger this time because of the moment, the gravity of the situation was just plus it was the Packers, dude. Nobody cared about the
I
Cardinals.
mean, the Packers, it's got like a 5x multiplier on it.
Yeah.
You know, the '06 that comeback game it's fun. It's so much fun to
Fun,
even
dude.
revisit now. But I think only our buddy Jack thinks that the Bears are a rival with the Cardinals. Because he goes back to the Chicago Cardinals days. Remember him hitting me up a few years ago, like, don't you think that the Bears Cardinals is like the oldest rivalry? And I'm like, I do not. I think that dies once they go out of the division. So, anyway.
Cornelia Squall said, last night was his favorite Bears win since the Bears beat Dallas 44, zipping 85. I go back to 85 too. I remember that 85 game against the Cowboys, and that game was huge because, America's team, right? That was right in the heart of that. They were still coming off at all that buzz. They had a lot of fanfare around the Cowboys. So the fact that the 85 Bears went in there and smoked that team like that was mammoth. This is Packers, though. Like you said, it gets the multiplier. So I still think this is bigger than that one.
It's a good way to state it, though, is I favorite, because I can't tell you that it's not your favorite.
Yes, exactly.
That's the perfect way to go. I do that all the time because people are like, "Oh, that's not the best." I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's the best.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's whatever. This is my favorite. So if I say this is my favorite movie and you say that movie sucks, I say I don't care because it's my favorite. So absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. I think people that go to games, I think there's a multiplier there, right? Because you can be like, well, I was there. So I think that's one of those things too. Like Taylor, our colleague Taylor was at that game. She got Dexter's ticket.
Yeah.
So she was at the game, living it up and partying early. I think she said she left her hotel room at like 10:30 in the morning for the night game. So I mean, she was out going for it yesterday, and I can't wait to hear how her experience went being live in that one, and stayed to the very end, of course, and was posted some jumping around videos as well.
Then defender Caleb spreads out his throws. You think it's by design? Yeah, I think Ben talked about that earlier in the season, how each play they have has a primary built in, right? And there's been a lot of pure progression talk through social media these last few weeks, and I kind of think that's how Ben wants his quarterbacks to do. They have a primary, coverage dictates some of that stuff, pre-snap. But yeah, I think that Ben and Caleb, they want to make sure they have that spread out. And I think that's what you want as an offense. You don't want one guy, unless you have like an elite guy that is just, always open, catches everything that's thrown to him, that, all pro, perennial, all pro type receiver. I think you want to spread it out and kind of get the ball into other people's hands.
Yeah. I mean, Rome and Burden were out. And so if you had built your offense around, and through either or both of those guys, and now here you have a situation where both of them are out, well, now where do you go, right? Because none of these guys have been asked to do anything more. They don't have any real experience. They don't have any reps. So these guys have been able to step up. And it did feel like the offense wasn't maybe clicking because those two guys were out. I saw, Harmon, the wide receivers guy, I think he said something, Matt Harmon, he said, like, boy, this offense sure looks like it's missing its top two wide receivers tonight. And I was like, yeah, it did. It did look like it was missing a little something there. But overall, like this, I think it's by design, and I think it's, for the better. And sometimes you match up with, you're going to match up with the defense that's like, man, they got such good whatever, right? Like they've got such a good slot corner that it really takes away what we like to do running, our fast wide receiver out of the slot. So we're gonna flex Loveland out because we think that nickel corner isn't very big, and he'll be a matchup nightmare for him, right? Or boy, these guys just get beat over the top. So we're gonna send more. Like having this diversity of skill set and being able to craft your game plan individually around what your players do best to attack what the defense, the opponent doesn't do well. And that's what good coaching is, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think all of that's true. And I think you're seeing what Ben Johnson's going to bring to the table for this franchise.
Let's end with this one. Spirit games are not for the weak of heart. Now they're the cardiac bears, right? Cardiac kids, comebacks. I love it, man. Look, by any means necessary, get that win. It's all that matters. 11 wins, playoffs around the corner. Division leads right around the corner. He's got a few things to take care of today with some help, and the Bears control their own destiny still. That's what you want.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. just one win away from an NFC North title. Neither of those games are going to be easy, but they could absolutely do it. Obviously, they can back their way into it with some losses by their division opponents. But I mean, we're going to know a lot more by the next time we talk, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll see where this is at after everybody's played. After Detroit plays today, and then everybody plays their next week game when we talk again. But it's exciting stuff, man. Like, I mean, this is really cool that we're here. I wish that 11 wins was absolutely in the playoffs, so I could just kind of like breathe a sigh of relief, because I just want to like make sure that they're in the
Yeah.
game. Like, I want to make sure they're in the show. Just give me a playoff game, and let's see what goes from there. But yeah, everybody, the goalposts keep moving for people, and I understand that, right? Like, people are getting a little greedy, and I get that, and I feel that as well to some extent. But let's just have some fun with it. That's, I think, all you can ask at this point.
That's sports. If you're not enjoying your sports watching experience, it's entertainment. If you're not enjoying it, find something else to watch. I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a good place to end it. Someone mentioned thanks for this Sunday morning brunch podcast, and we weren't gonna. It just worked out for us to do it today, and we talked about it midweek. Like, if they win, let's do it at 11 a.m. If they lose, let's figure it out. Let's let's talk about it. But yeah, you were up really late into the small hours of the morning, so I appreciate your commitment to this, and hopefully you're be able to catch up on sleep at some point this week.
I'll get there eventually. You'll get plenty of sleep when you're dead. So
There is that. So, all right, guys, we'll see you soon. Thanks.